Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will chant up to 20 today. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrim Karane. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Mudhajahi Dhana Gamatrishnam Kuru Satbuddhim Manasi Vitrishnam Yallabhase Nijakarmopatam Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chittam. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Nari Stana Bharanabhi Desham Drishtva Maga Mohavesham Etanaman Savasadi Vikaram Manasi Vichintaya Varam Varam. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralam Tattvat Jeevitam Atishaya Chapalam Vitti Vyathya Bhima Nagrastam Lokam Shokahatam Cha Samastam. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Yavat Vittoparjana Saktah Tavat Nija Parivaro Rakta Paschat Jivati Jara Jara He Vardam Kopina Prachati Gehe. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Yavat Pavano Nivasati Dehe Tavat Pruchati Kushalam Gehe, Gatavati Vayav Dehapaye Bharya Bhyati tasmin kai. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Balastavat Kridasakta Taruna Stavat Taruni Sakta, Vridhastavat Chinta Sakta Parame Brahmani Kopi Nasakta. भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते काते कान्ता कस्ते पुत्रः संसारो यमतीव विचित्र कस्य त्वं कुत आयात तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रात भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सत्सङ्गत्वे निस्सङ्गत्वं निस्सङ्गत्वे निर्मोहत्वं निर्मोहत्वे निश्चलतत्त्वं निश्चलतत्त्वे जीवनमुक्ति भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते वयसि गते कामविकार शुष्के नीरे काकसार क्षीणे वित्ते का परिवारो ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसार भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते मा कुरु धन जन यौवन गर्वं हरति निमिषत्काल सर्वं मायामयमिदम् अखिलं बुद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते दिन्यामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायात कालक्रीडति गच्छति आयु तदपि न मुञ्चति आशावायु भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते काते कान्ता धनगत चिन्ता वातुलकिं तव नास्ति नियन्ता त्रिजगति सजन संगति रेखा भवति भवार्णवतरणे नौका भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते जटिलो मुण्डीलुञ्चितके शहकाशायाम्बर बहुकृतवेष पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढो उदरनिमित्तं बहुकृतवेष भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते अङ्गं गलितं पलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डं वृद्धो याति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चति आशापिण्डं भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते अग्रे वह्नि पृष्ठे भानुरात्रौ चुबुकसमर्पितजानु करुतलभिक्षा तरुतलवास तदपि न मुञ्चति आशा पाश भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते कुरुते गंगा सागर गमनं परिपालनम् अथवा दानं ज्ञानविहीन सर्वमतेन भजति न मुक्तिं जन्मशतेन भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासशय्या भूतलम् अजिनं वास सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्याग कस्य सुखं न करोति विराग भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा संगरतो वा संगविहीन यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चित्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते भगवद्गीता किञ्चिदधीता गङ्गाजललवकणिका पीता सकृदपि येन मुरारिसमर्चा क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते. I said we'll chant up to 21, but we'll stop at 20. So last week we saw verse number 19. In that he described the state of a person who is established in that state of reality, in our true nature, whatever name we want to give it, who is a fully aware or an enlightened person. And we have this notion that, there are, this enlightenment is something which is very elusive and very difficult to get. It is the reality of each and every one of us. It is inherent in every one of us, and we would have matured fully as human beings when we reach that state. We have to go through all stages of life, and this is the ultimate state of fulfillment of life. So, and what is that state? He says, whether this person is actively engaging in the world or is withdrawing from the world, yoga ratova, bhoga ratova, in contact with sense objects or withdrawing from sense objects, whether this person is in company, in crowds, or in solitude. But the yasya brahmani ramate chittam, one who is reveling in the Brahman, in the divine supreme, that person rejoices, is always in a state of bliss. The nature of Brahman is Satchit Ananda. Ananda is that state of bliss. When you are that state of bliss, there are no disturbances. Disturbances come to us from three areas. The three areas that bring us disturbances are cosmic forces, which all of you in India are going to probably get this tornado or whatever storm you are facing, whether it is, some of the natural forces that come as earthquakes and storms, volcanoes, they disturb us. The disturbance from other beings, whether they are, human beings, they disturb us in so many ways, or whether any other form of life, but disturbances can come from them. And the third one is from within ourselves. This person who is in that state of enlightened, who has reached that state, is established in his or her true nature, always rejoices, never gets disturbed. That is the message. Now, another word of caution, which we had also mentioned in the last class, is because this says Bhogaratova, which means engages and interacts actively with the different objects of the world. It is not a license to indulge. It is indulgence will take us away from what we are trying to achieve. Here he is describing the state of a realized master. Once we are in that state, presence or absence of objects, relationships, positions, things, nothing will make a difference. If it is here, wonderful. If it is not here, wonderful. That is the state of being. As one of the Swamijis at Chinmay Mission would say, that is the state of living in wow. With or without, it is wonderful. So that is the state being described. Now, to get to that state, what is the practice we have to follow? So that practice is given here. Bhagavad Gita Kinchit Adhita. If you have studied the Bhagavad Gita even a little bit, Ganga Jala Lava Kanika Pita, if you had even a drop of the water of Ganges, Sakradapi Yena Murari Samarcha. If you have worshipped Lord Murari even once, then Kriyate Tasya Yamena Nacharcha. That person, charcha, we all know, is a conversation or a discussion. So that person will have no conflict with Lord Yama, the Lord of Death. Again, we have to fully appreciate, beautiful verse, appreciate what he is directing our attention to. Bhagavad Gita Kinchit Adhita. If we have studied the Bhagavad Gita, even a little bit. So what does studying Bhagavad Gita mean? It does not mean reading the Gita. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji used to say that there are people who used to come to him and say, Swamiji, I have gone through the Gita at least 5 times. And Swamiji would say, that is wonderful. But tell me, has the Gita gone through you even once? Which means, do you live you're okay? Okay, sorry. So he used to say, do you live the Bhagavad Gita that you say you have studied? What does living the Bhagavad Gita mean? Living the Bhagavad Gita even a little bit. The different aspects that it teaches us about Gita. One is, Karma Yoga. Do we practice Karma Yoga at all? That is the first practice Gita gives us. Do we perform all our bounden duties? In the 3rd chapter of Gita, there is a verse, Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam. Do your duties, fulfill them to the best of your abilities. Are we doing that? If we are doing even just that much, a little bit, it will lead us to the ultimate glory. Then the Gita, what is the other thing that Gita teaches us? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Surrendering all your dharmas. Now, when dharma has had a very interesting translation for most of us, and the translation that we have been given is that of religion. So it is dharma is that which upholds us. What upholds that without which, dharma literally means that without which a thing or a being cannot be what it is. Dharanat iti dharma, that which upholds it. So what is the dharma of sugar? The dharma of sugar is sweetness. There can be no sugar without sweetness. So, we can say it is white in color, it is crystalline, it may be a cube. All those things may not be there. We have brown sugar. We have sugar that is not crystalline. We may even talk about the very source of sugar. We say, no, sugar comes from the beetroot. No, it comes from sugar cane. None of those will hold if it is not sweet. only thing that determines if a thing is sugar is sweetness. So what is it that determines who I am? We all have different definitions of who we are. Whatever it is that we think we are, we have to surrender that to Lord Krishna or to the divine, and let only that divinity uphold us. That is what Gita is teaching us. So live by it. You may take any one aspect, but live by it fully. Let it become a part of who you are. It is getting knowledge is no different from intake of food. Until that food becomes part of who I am, it has not nourished me. Similarly, with the Bhagavad Gita, even a little bit, let it become part of who I am so that I can eat it. Same with Ganga Jal. He says, if you had even one drop of the Ganges water, what does Ganga represent? Ganga represents knowledge to us. What is the spiritual knowledge? It is an ancient tradition that, so many people have done their practices, sadhanas, on the banks of Ganges. And that place is not only is the place by the river charged, but it is even believed that the waters of Ganges are pure, that if you keep it for some, for an extended period of time, it does not change. It remains pure. It doesn't have any bacterial growth. That is a belief. I cannot vouch for it, nor can I say that it does not happen. So, so that purity, have we brought that purity into our hearts through knowledge? Just a drop of that purity of Ganga Jal. So if we have that purity, then of course that will lead us to the enlightenment. And the third thing is, have we worshipped Lord Murari? Krishna is called Murari. Why is he called Murari? Because he killed the demon Mura. The other name of Mura was Narkasur. And in many parts of India, what we call Kali Chaudas is celebrated as Naraka Chaturdashi, the day Narkasur was killed, Mura. Now, Mura had created a big, impenetrable fort, and Krishna penetrated that fort and killed him. The big, impenetrable fort, and Mura represents ego. So the impenetrable fort of ego that we have created, that can only come through the worship of divine, when that divine comes into our bosoms. And only then will, once that fort is broken down, then we will not have a conversation with Yama, the Lord of Death, who death for all of us, we look upon it as when I will no longer be there because of our definition of who we are. However, death represents change. And what do we mean by that? In the death of the bud is the birth of a flower. In the death of the flower is the birth of the fruit. In the death of the fruit, we have the seed. In the death of the seed, we have the sapling. In the death of the sapling, we have the plant. In the death of the plant, we have the tree. And this change continues. So but what was constant there? There was something that was constant. It never became non-existent. Only the form and name changed, but it remained, it was there, it was existent. So that aspect which kept it existent is what we know as Sat. And when we establish ourselves in that which is the changeless in us, which is eternal in us, we will be established in Sat. And of course, that Sat is itself conscious, because if it is not conscious, then how do we know that it exists? And its nature is bliss. So when we are established in that reality of ourselves, which is the changeless, which is eternal, which is infinite, then we will always rejoice, Nandati, Nandati. And we will not worry about when death comes to us. We will not have a conversation. I need 5 more minutes. I want to see my children mature. I want to complete this task. We know this is the very nature. After everything is done, also, we still have some reason to continue to exist as we are today, or as we think we are today. But once we are established in that real self of ours, we will not have a conversation with Yama. We will be ready for the change when it comes. So this is because no longer that Mura is in our bosoms, that impenetrable force of ego that we create has, through, by surrendering to Murari, by Lord Krishna, we come to be united with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the conscious principle within us. That is the constant principle in us that always exists. That is Sat in us. And once we are established in Sat, there is no conversation with death. We are deathless, then we are immortal. That is what the Gita teaches us. And that is what our knowledge will also lead us to. Before I conclude, I'd like to share a beautiful piece that I heard from Maharaj Ram Kinkarji from Ramcharitmanas. When Bharat was going to meet Lord Rama in the forest, all the people from Ayodhya had joined him. And Bharat had made arrangements for these people to go with him. Some of them went on elephants. Some of them went in chariots. Some of them walked. And for the 3 mothers, Bharata had arranged palanquins, palkis. And the symbolism of that is so beautiful. Ram Kinkarji said that Bharata is the Guru who leads us to Lord Rama, who we have sent to the woods, who is away from us. Now, the Guru is leading us back to that divinity which is inherent in us. And based on our personality, our type, he will give us the mode of going to that divine. Those who go on the elephants represent knowledge, people who take the path of knowledge. And what is it that they ride with? They ride with only what is called an ankush, which is a sharp stick to keep the elephant on track. That sharp stick represents a sharp intellect to stay on the path of knowledge. Those who go on the chariots, they represent people who walk the path of dharma. It is called the dharma ratha. They follow in Ramcharitmanas itself. There is a beautiful description of dharma rath, and due to the limitation of time, it's difficult to describe. But Satya Shila Dhvaja Pataka. So you walk the path of truth. You walk the path of gentleness. And further description, but here I'm sure we don't have the time, and you will all appreciate the idea. Those who walked, they were the karma yogis, people who did action, surrendered their action to the divine principle and walked towards the Lord divinity. And for the mothers who went on palanquins in palkis, he said they are, it is an effortless path. They have to do nothing. That is the path of bhakti. And he said they are carried by 4. Who are these 4 who carry the palki? The 4 carriers of palki are Nam, which is the name, Rupa is the form, Leela is the glory, and Dham, they are the places associated with the divine. Those who are able to surrender in devotion, for them, effortlessly, the Lord carries them. And due to limitation of time, I won't be able to tell you, the entire thing, but he further went to describe the various ghats that are there. And he said there is one place called Panighat. That Panighat is reserved especially for ladies. And he said at that Panighat, not only do the ladies take, a dip in the holy waters, but when they are returning, they carry ghada full of water. They bring back water for others, which means that those who follow the devotion, not only do they enjoy the glory of devotion, they are able to even share it effortlessly with all. I thought this was such a beautiful analogy, and I certainly wanted to share the different ways in which we have brought this eternal truths and the ways of getting to them through all our beautiful books. So this verse 20 shows us how to reach that state, which is described in verse 19. We will stop here. We'll say the concluding prayers, and then we will meet for a little while.
1 minute.
After I've said the concluding prayers.
Abstract person with me. That is my definition of what you describe in detail.
Yeah.
What
Let me finish my concluding prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave.
That was very beautiful, Meena.
Oh, thank you, Meera. That verse is so beautiful. He gives us all the ways of getting there.
I did not follow the what Palkis he said, something.
Sorry, Bhadra, I couldn't hear you.
About Palki, you were saying something. I did not follow it properly.
Palki, there are
Yeah.
4. It is Nama, Rupa, Leela, and Dham.
Okay.
So Nam is the name of the Lord. Rupa is the form of the Lord, whoever is your Ishta Devata. Then the Leelas that are associated with that Lord. And then Dham is, if it is Krishna, you go to Vrindavan. If it is Ram, you go to Ayodhya. So those are the Dhams, the places associated with bhakti. Ramkinkarji has done, he speaks in Hindi, but he has done such a marvelous explanation, bringing Vedanta from Ramcharitmanas and explained it.
So those are what sustain the bhakti.
I beg your pardon, Neera?
It's what sustains bhakti.
That's right. Because in bhakti, there is a Lord, a form of the Lord that you worship. And that form, that Lord has a form, has a name, And there are all these beautiful stories that are associated, like with Krishna, for example. He was a makhan chor. He stole butter. Then his playfulness with the gopis, his caring for the cows. Those are all his leelas. Then while playing with his friends, he went into the lake to kill that snake. All these beautiful stories that keep us enchanted. And they're all symbolic stories. So they keep us totally devoted and focused. And the fourth is, of course, the place, dham, which is places associated with them.